But one man inspired by LA's car culture would become, after Warhol, the most influential American artist of the past half-century. A vision of horizons and vanishing points, America, as seen by Ed Ruscha, is viewed through the windscreen of a car, imbued with the romance of Route 66 and the rolling freedom of the open road. And Ruscha dramatized one of pop's most important themes, America's mythic sense of itself. In the early 60s, Ruscha was the matinee idol of pop. But back in 1956, he was still a small-town boy from America's Bible Belt, nurturing hopes of becoming a commercial artist. His native Oklahoma was stifling and claustrophobic.
I knew I wanted to travel, leave Oklahoma, and go to an art school out here.
Why particularly?
LA sounded better to me. Just had more flavor to it, more swank or something to it that I may have been missing at the time.
So aged 18, Ruscha set off on Route 66 for art school. It was one of many subsequent road trips.
I used to hitchhike back and forth between California and Oklahoma, where I grew up. And as I was going along, I would photograph gas stations. I like the idea of sort of an on-the-road trip, documenting the whole thing from the view of gas stations.
So this is one of the very first, well, the first Ed Ruscha artist book.
Yeah.
And this is called, as the cover says, 26 gasoline stations.
Right.
How much were you thinking about Duchamp? Was he important as an influence at this point? Because you could see each individual gas station as a sort of version of one of his ready-mades.
They could, and in a sense you might say, well, they are ready-mades. I am glorifying each one of these things, calling attention to something that most people might say doesn't need calling attention to.
In a sense, Ruscha's books are conceptual artworks, and the paintings they inspired lead us into a surreal new realm. Ordinary gas stations are dramatically lit with spotlights. The Hollywood sign appears like a hero on the horizon. Ruscha is visualizing the dream factory of modern America, how America manufactures not only its consumer products, but also its very sense of self. Yet Ruscha's attitude to his homeland is neither straightforwardly celebratory nor downright critical. And that's the crux which animates all of his work. At times his paintings seem satirical, setting ablaze the values of wealthy, corporate America in all its depressing standardization.
I did another painting of a restaurant here in town called Norms. Critic comes along and says, "Ah, I see, norms and standards, huh? Is that what he's after?" Yeah. And it surprised me.
It can't have surprised you, did it?
It surprised me, yeah. Because that wasn't in my line of thinking.
You're kidding. So when you hear that, do you sort of think it's nonsense to impose that sort of idea onto the work?
No, not nonsense at all. It's coming from somebody else. That's what Duchamp said to begin with. I think it was that, you know, making the art is one thing, and then interpreting it, it takes a viewer to add to it. I mean, that's called, what, backdoor influence.
Right.
Also, I felt like it takes almost somebody from a foreign country to come to America to really see America.
But how does that position you then, in terms of coming from Oklahoma?
That makes me an outsider, doesn't it? Or an insider, or something. But I felt like, you know, the glory of America is somehow hinted at in some of these works. You know, I don't intentionally want to insert my patriotism into anything, but sometimes it just happens.
I'm really surprised to hear you talk about patriotism.
I don't think I've ever used that word.
No. This is an exclusive.
Yeah.
Ed Ruscha, patriot.
So these are works on paper that I do with pastel and acrylic. I could be accused of being a linguistic kleptomaniac.
Ruscha's stark, severe images are like epitaphs on a gravestone, a final statement recording the soul of the American century. Like the best pop art, Ruscha's work reflects the pride of a nation on the march towards prosperity. Often it crackles with the wisecracking, tough guy attitude, which is such an essential part of America's self-image.